Well, good afternoon, and welcome back to the Little French Homestead. My name is Sherry. If you are new today to my channel, welcome. So before we get too far into today's video, let me just say that all of the recipes that you will be seeing here will be linked into the description box down below, and I will tell you what I made and what I substituted for at the end of this video. So not too long ago, I gave my family a list of recipes that I've been saving to make for a while now, and I asked them to pick up some new to us meals and see what they would like to eat. They chose 10 different casseroles, believe it or not, and I thought, hey, no big deal, I can do this. I had one day to print out all of the recipes and make a list of everything that I needed and what I had on hand and what I was substituting. Yes, I did make sure that I was not going to go to the store for any of this. I was trying to use the method first in, first out, and use what I had on hand. That way, this saved me money and time and energy of going to the store. So I sat down and I figured out my plan. Yeah, having a plan is a must for a big cooking day like this. I had to figure out how many onions I needed to dice, how much rice needed cooking, any garlic, getting all of my spices ready, and everything else to me that needed to be successful. I gathered all of the ingredients and prepping for all of these meals. About halfway through 8 hours of prepping and cooking. Yes, you heard that correctly. 8 hours. Now, I did obviously take several breaks throughout the day, but I did start at 10 a.m. and went until 7 p.m., all in one day. This is with cleanup and wrapping and writing directions on top of the aluminum foil for easy instructions to whomever cooks them. Now, while I was in the middle of my cooking marathon, I was really about to go ahead and just give up, feeling the overwhelmingness of all this, and just put everything back in the refrigerator, sit down, and binge watch a favorite TV show. Believe it or not, but I had an epiphany. Now, don't get me wrong, I do really love cooking and meal prepping. But what if I could try something new and different? Then I remembered an article that I read not too long ago, and they talked about meal building. Meal building, you ask, what is that? I'm going to tell you what meal building is, but let's set the scene first. You've all seen those Instagram posts, neat rows of perfectly portioned cooked chicken, broccoli, and rice. You have been sold on a promise of simplified weeknights and effortless healthy eating. So you try it. You dedicate your entire Sunday to a marathon cooking session, creating a mountain of dishes in a kitchen that looks like a disaster zone. And I will show you mine at the end of this video. And for what? By Thursday, you're ordering takeout anyway? Because you can't stand the sight of another lukewarm, identical meal. The food has gotten soggy, the textures are weird, and your refrigerator is full of meals You have no desire to eat now, and it feels like a total failure of willpower. But the truth is, the system is broken, not you. Traditional meal prep is fundamentally flawed for most people because it ignores the realities of life. Our cravings change, our schedules are unpredictable, and nobody wants to eat the exact same thing 4 days in a row. It's rigid, exhausting, and often leads to more food waste, not less. So what if we could stop trying to force ourselves into this one-size-fits-all box? What if there was a better way? So we're going to be focusing on meal prepping, meal building instead of meal prepping. The terms might sound familiar, but the concept are worlds apart. Traditionally, meal prepping is about cooking and portioning entire meals in advance. You cook a specific recipe, divide it into 5 containers, and that's your lunch for the week. Meal building, on the other hand, is a practice of preparing individual components or ingredients ahead of time. Think of it as creating your own personal healthy buffet for a week. You are not locked into specific meals. Instead, you are going to have a flexible arsenal of cooked proteins, versatile carbs, and prepped veggies ready to be mixed and matched into different combinations. Meal planning is the thinking part, deciding what you want to eat. Meal prepping, in its traditional form, is the rigid execution of that plan. Meal building is the smart, flexible bridge between the two. It gives you the structure of a plan without the prison of a pre-portioned, uninspired meal. It's about removing friction, not creating a chore. So here are the core principles. So how actually do you do it? It's simpler than you think, and it revolves around 3 core principles. The first, the plate model. This is your visual guide. Forget complicated macro counting for a second and just look at your plate. A well-built meal generally follows this ratio. Half of your plate should be filled with non-starchy vegetables and fruits. Think color, think variety, like green for broccoli, and maybe a purple cabbage, and a side of applesauce. 1/4 of your plate is a lean protein source that is normally the size of your palm, like a boneless pork chop. And finally, the 1/4 is for a high-fiber whole grain carbohydrate, like a sweet potato. This simple visual cue ensures a balanced meal every single time, without the need for a spreadsheet. Second, the macronutrient, balance and diversity. Your body needs all 3 macronutrients: carbohydrates for energy, protein for muscle and maintenance, and healthy fats for hormone production. Traditionally, meal prep often gets this wrong, leaning too heavily on one macro and creating nutritional imbalances. Meal building encourages you to prep a variety of sources from each category. Instead of just chicken, maybe you prep some salmon, a batch of lentils. Instead of just brown rice, you could also have quinoa and roasted sweet potato. This variety isn't just for taste, it's crucial for getting a wide range of vitamins and minerals. Researchers show that dietary diversity is linked to a lower risk of metabolic syndrome and heart disease. Third is your efficiency. The goal here is to make your life easier during the week. That means meal prepping your components in an organized way. The sane approach is to do things in stages. First, do all of your knife work. Wash and chop all of your vegetables. Then move on to cooking. Get your grains simmering on the stove while your proteins are roasting in the oven. By batching these tasks together, you are far more efficient than if you were to chop an onion every single night. Now, the meal building in action. Let's make this tangible. All right, now it's Sunday, and you have about 90 minutes to get everything ready. Here's what you should be doing. First, the proteins. You're not cooking 5 different chicken dishes. You're just preparing a few versatile proteins. First, why don't you go ahead and bake a tray of seasoned chicken breasts? At the same time, maybe you can roast a piece of salmon on another tray. You could also hard-boil a half a dozen eggs and rinse off a can of chickpeas. That's it. 4 proteins ready to go. Next, the carbohydrates. While the protein's in the oven, you can get your carbs going on the stove. Cook a large pot of quinoa. Another pot, cook some brown rice and maybe some whole wheat pasta. Maybe you could also wash and poke some sweet potatoes so they are ready to be quickly microwaved or baked later. Now you got 3 complex carbs. Then the veggies. This is where you'll save the most time during the week. Pull out that cutting board one last time. Chop up a few bell peppers, some red onions, wash maybe a big container of spinach or some mixed greens. Cut that broccoli and cauliflower into florets. Maybe even roast a sheet pan of them with a little olive oil and some seasonings. Store everything in a clear, airtight container so you can see what you have. Finally, don't forget those flavor boosters. This is the secret to never having a boring meal. Whisk together some simple vinaigrette in a jar. Olive oil, vinegar, little Dijon mustard, salt and pepper. Or maybe you have some hummus. You have some salsa. Pick out your favorite salsa. Greek yogurt on hand is phenomenal to have. Nuts, seeds, and avocados are also fantastic for adding additional flavors, textures, and those very important healthy fats. Now look what you've done. You haven't made a single meal, but you've created a library of possibilities. Now let's watch the magic happen. Here's how it's going to play during the week. So, on Monday night, what are we making? How about a Southwest chicken bowl? Go grab a scoop of quinoa, top it with some shredded chicken, add some of those roasted peppers and onions, add a handful of lettuce. I'll toss in some black beans from the pantry, and then drizzle it all with that amazing creamy cilantro lime sauce. And just like that, dinner's on the table, and 5 minutes. Tuesday, you're not feeling a taco bowl, so let's just do regular tacos. I'll warm some corn tortillas up, fill them with some seasoned ground turkey, top that with some more shredded lettuce, dice a quick tomato, and that same cilantro lime sauce. A totally different meal using some of the same core components. Zero boredom. Wednesday's lunch. I need something quick and light. I'll grab a huge bowl of that chopped romaine lettuce. Add the cooked lentils, some sliced cucumbers and carrots. I'll toss that all with a simple vinaigrette that I made. A powerful filling salad that took less than 3 minutes to put together. Thursday night, I want something cozy. I'll take one of those sweet potatoes, warm it up, and get it loaded. I'll mash the inside up a bit, then top it with some black beans, some roasted corn, and a sprinkle of that ground turkey. A dollop of Greek yogurt or that creamy sauce. It's a loaded sweet potato that took less than an hour to make, but it only took 10 minutes. By Friday, I'm beat. I want something that feels like takeout. Hey, let's do a quick stir fry. I'll heat up a pan, throw some of that shredded chicken in, the last of the roasted broccoli and peppers, maybe a handful of spinach. I'll hit it with a splash of soy sauce from the pantry and serve it over that last little bit of quinoa. A fast, healthy stir fry ready in minutes. 5 days, 5 completely different, delicious, and yet healthy meals. No boredom, no soggy broccoli, and absolutely no last-minute panic. That is the power of meal building. Now, I can hear the objections already, but Sherry, this sounds like so much work. Not really, it's just a different kind of work. It's a concentrated burst of efficient prep rather than a long draining day of cooking multiple complex recipes. And the payoff is massive. You save dozens of small decisions and tasks throughout the week. I'm not a creative cook, Sherry. I just can't build meals. You don't have to be. Start simple. Remember that plate model. You are going to pick 1 protein, 1 carb, and 1 veggie. That's it. As you get more comfortable, you can start experimenting with different sauces and different combinations. The goal is to make healthy eating easier, not to become a gourmet chef overnight. But Sherry, what about food waste? This is where meal building truly shines. Because you are not locked into a specific meal, you're more likely to use up what you have. That half an onion or those last few mushrooms can be easily thrown into a scrambled egg to make an omelet or a frittata and a salad. Now you're at the end of the week and you have used all the ingredients and now 0 food waste. You know the best part of it was not one meal was the same, but you had pre-cooked a lot of the same ingredients. You're adapting to what you have, which dramatically reduces the chances of finding that fuzzy container of prep food in the back of your refrigerator. We've all had one of those. I am definitely one. The biggest mistake is all trying to be perfect. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is to remove friction. So my question to you is, what is the biggest meal prep mistake you've been making? Is it boredom, the commitment time, or the soggy food? Or the massive amounts of leftovers? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear what your biggest frustration is. Let me tell you mine. Mine is to trying to come up with new foods to feed my picky family. I have some kids that don't like it if I add veggies to casserole or one-pot meals. Some don't like beans of any kind. They call them fartin' beans, which is true. I have one that likes rice better. I have one that likes mashed potatoes better. So trust me when I say I have picky eaters. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. I was one of them growing up. I loved my mom's green bean casserole, but my mom always used cream of mushroom soup because that's what the recipe calls for. And I literally would sit there every single time she made it at the dining room table and pick every single piece of mushroom out. And I didn't care if I sat there for 2 hours. Of course, now she uses cream of chicken. The meal prep movement sold us on a dream of efficiency and health. But for many, it delivered a reality of tiredness and burnt out. It is now time to reclaim our Sundays and our weeknight dinners and maybe our afternoon lunches. Meal building isn't about a complete overhaul of your life. It's about making small strategic changes that will have a huge impact. It's about giving yourself grace and flexibility. It's also about making healthy choices, easy decisions by prepping components instead of entire meals. You empower yourself to eat well without the stress and the monotony. You save time, reduce waste, and most importantly, you get to try to enjoy your food again. So this week I challenge you, and don't worry, I will also be challenging myself. Don't meal prep. Build your meals. Prep 2 or 3 proteins. Cook the whole package of chicken breast in the oven. Add some salt and pepper. Or better yet, put it in the crock pot. Easier to have shredded chicken and you'll have some broth. Then use that broth to cook your rice. That way, it'll have a little extra flavor. Cook that ground beef with some onions. Cook 2 baked potatoes. A bunch of veggies in the oven all together. Add some olive oil, some seasonings. Make it delicious. Make it you. Make some sauces or some dressings. See what happens. You just might find that eating healthy, delicious foods all week is easier than you ever thought possible. You will still have one day of dirty dishes and a messy kitchen, but now you have the endless possibilities of meals, not endless leftovers that are the same. Here are the meals that I've made and the recipes that I used, again, in the description box down below. But I did tailor it to my family's needs and what I had on hand for the ingredients, as I did substitute some of these ingredients. So one of the first dishes that I made today was a chicken, broccoli, and rice casserole. I used my pre-cooked shredded chicken for this. I had made a big batch a few weeks ago during my broth making era, and I was able to use those up right there. And then I had made a big batch of rice, and I cooked that separately. Now, this recipe does call for cooking everything all together, but like I said, I did cook it separately as I was using some other rice for a different meal. I made a cheeseburger casserole. I used ground beef for that. And when I was cooking my next recipe, which was chili cornbread casserole, I used the onions and ground beef. I cooked that all together. Then I divided that in half. I finished then one recipe. Then I did the other recipe. So for the cornbread recipe, I had then used, like I said, the ground beef and the cooked onions, and then I added all of those other seasonings, which was some cumin, some chili powder. But I also did not add the cornbread because I was not baking it right then in the oven. I did not want the cornbread to sit still mushy when I put it in the freezer. So that is the only thing that I need to do for that recipe. Other than that, all of my other recipes were 100% finished. I also then made a chicken Alfredo bake. Now, if you remember, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had did a big Sam's Club U-Haul, and I had pre-trimmed and diced up some chicken, and that is what I used for the chicken parm. Also, we had made a healthy white chicken enchilada. Again, on that one, I used the pre-cooked shredded chicken. I've never made the enchiladas with white sauce, so this was our first time doing that. I've always used the red sauce. So we are going to try that one. Next was the cheesy potato, ham, and green beans. Now, I did save a bunch of time on this one as ham is already pre-cooked. I did go ahead and dice it up into cubes. I needed 2 cups for that recipe and 2 cups for another recipe. Also, my dad gave us some of his homegrown green beans, fresh from his garden, and I was able to go ahead and dice and trim that all up and give it a quick wash. The potato, ham, and green beans casserole, I needed to dice and pre-cook the potatoes, and that was excellent, pushing it all together like that. The cheesy scalloped potatoes and ham. With that, I needed to slice on my mandolin a bunch of potatoes. Now, what I did do is put them in water, because if you know, potatoes will go ahead and turn brown. So I wanted to make sure that they were at least done when I was ready to go ahead and make that delicious meal. The next one we did is a cabbage casserole. My dad gave us this cute little cabbage, and that was perfect for this particular dinner. Instead of the ground beef that it was asking for, I used ground sausage. Now for my next one was the baked penny with sausage, zucchini, and feta. So despite all of this sounding delicious, we did not have any zucchini and none of us like feta. So, and actually I didn't have any penny. So I just had bow tie noodles and some of the curvy elbow noodles. I cooked all of that together, those 2 pounds of noodles, because I was making the chicken parmesan and I needed noodles. So I just cooked both batches into one. Obviously, I salted my water. With the zucchini, though, we didn't have any zucchini. But my mom and dad gave us this wonderful squash. But we don't remember what the actual name is. So if you happen to see me cutting that squash in the very beginning, let me know in the comment below. That'd be a really big help. So like we said, we don't like feta. So I used mozzarella. And I didn't have any cottage cheese, so I used Greek yogurt. This was the only recipe, the meal, that I had to really substitute quite a bit for it because I didn't have it. But I know that this is still going to be quite delicious. So with all of these 10 meals, I used all my pre-cooked shredded chicken, used up my pre-diced chicken breast. Now with that diced chicken, as you see here, I put everything into one pan. I was making 2 separate recipes, as I said, but for convenience and my sanity at this point, because I was getting really overloaded, I cooked all the chicken into one, seasoned it all together, and then separated the chicken to be in 2 different meals. I found that it was much easier to do that. Same with the ground beef. Like I said, in both dishes had onions, so I cooked them together, but when the seasoning was getting to come into play, I separated them both. So now you're probably wondering if I will ever cook this way again. I know I will. I know I will definitely make one big change if we do a lot of recipes like this. I am going to make one extremely big batch of cheese sauce. I had made so much cheese sauce that day. I was very nice to the person who was doing dishes that day, and I kept reusing the same couple of pans, but I only had a few big ones. But I tell you what, big batch of cheese sauce. And then as you divide it, that's when you add any extra additional seasonings to it. So sorry again if this is another voiceover. There was a lot of things going on in our house. I do film on the weekends, and I cannot always ask the house to be completely quiet. I have children doing laundry, playing on their phones, hanging out with their friends. It's really hard to do that. Then usually my husband works overnights, so I really try to be quiet when he sleeps. So that's why sometimes during the day I can't always make videos and be loud. This is the mess of my kitchen. I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me to come into your home today. If you like this video, please share with your friends, comment down below, and click on that subscribe button. hit that notification bell so you'll be aware of my next video when it drops. And as always, keep on cooking. Bye.